Show with John Impemba and James Grande.
What is going on, FANation? John Impemba here with James Grande. Welcome into the Fantasy Alarm NBA DFS Playbook live show. We are here for the Tuesday 7-game main slate over on DraftKings. Sir Grande, how we doing, my buddy?
Happy Tuesday. Doing well. We'll see what happens from now until the trade deadline, but man, it just seems like there's just going to be a lot of crazy stuff going to go down in the next couple days. Reports of the Warriors doing everything they can do to get Kevin Durant,
Right.
But Kevin Durant might not be traded depending if Phoenix gets Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler saying he's willing to put everything in the past and come back to the Heat. I mean, it's just the Bulls are going to trade everybody but like Matas Bazula. So it's going to be an interesting slate, and I think we really have to just simply pay attention to what's going on in the news cycle when doing your DFS items, because like Dallas is seemingly making a trade every few hours. We don't know if Philly's going to make trades from now. They already made one. They're playing each other, and they traded with each other today. Yabusele is a commodity that everyone wants. He might, depending on what happens to Joel Embiid, Houston, does Houston get in the market? Does Brooklyn, seemingly every team, again, I hate to just always to say the same thing again, but now that Luka got traded, it seems like everybody is available. So
everybody definitely feels available. They're like, oh man, wait, we can trade Luka Doncic. Well, if they can trade Luka Doncic, then we can trade Kevin Durant, Giannis, LeBron, Beal, Booker, right? Butler. They're all every name is out there is basically now potentially up for grabs. The Grimes for Martin trade to me is feels Spider-Man meme-y, right? What exactly is the reason?
Contract related.
Yeah, money-wise, probably.
Grimes didn't sign the extension in the offseason. So they're going to lose him. Caleb Martin has a 4-year deal.
So just securing a wing player for them, I guess, basically.
Yep.
All right. So we do appreciate you guys tuning in. Justin in the chat, other Justin in the chat as well. Cujo, you're all in here saying what's up to all of us here. You guys have any questions, comments, throw them in there. We'll throw them on the screen. James and I'll help you guys get ready for today's slate. If you're new to the channel, hit that like, that subscribe, that share button. We go position by position. We break it all down. And we build a lineup at the end of the show. As you see, we got the 7-day free trial going on there. So you can go check out today's NBA DFS playbook, projections, lineup generator, premium Discord, all the fun stuff for free for 7 days. Your top overall priced players on today's slate: LeBron James, $10,800. Tyrese Maxey, $99. Tatum's $98. I may be returning Joel Embiid, $96. Towns, $94. Harden and Barnes round out the 9K tier. So, point guard: Maxey at $99, Harden at $92, and Barnes at $9K. Given today's slate, do you find yourself looking to spend up at the point guard position?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's fine. I expect Embiid to play. There's been nothing solidifying that, but practice the last few days, and we've generally gotten the out on Joel Embiid pretty early, but we've had the questionable tag all day long. I don't believe they went through shoot around, so we don't officially have that status, but his status and his availability hasn't really impacted Tyrese Maxey all that much. 36% usage, 1.3 fantasy points per minute. And then if Embiid's out, 36% usage, 1.34 fantasy points per minute. So he is just the guy that he is, high usage, good fantasy player. So I think if Embiid plays, nobody's going to play Tyrese Maxey, and I think that's leverage because, again, you have to assume, one, Embiid's going to be limited, and two, the numbers don't change. So, you could just play Tyrese Maxey in normal form and probably less attention, less ability to trap Tyrese Maxey when you're crossing half court if Joel Embiid plays. So I like Tyrese Maxey quite a bit. Another like thing that I looked at today was what do the numbers look like for Harden, right? Like what do they look like with Kawhi? The usage is a little bit down, sure.
Mhm.
1.2 fantasy points per minute is not down though. So if you want to play James Harden in a spot where you look at the Lakers, they blatantly just lost their two best defenders. Like you can argue Dorian Finney-Smith is what he is. But like AD inside, that doesn't exist. And Max Christie was blatantly like you're going to go guard the opponent's best player, right?
Yeah.
We don't have those two players tonight. So I think Harden has been really, really good outside of the Hornets game, which is a little shocking, but they were just bad in general in that game. Second leg of or front leg of no, they had played like 3 and 4 and they were bad. So I'm definitely good with Harden. And Scotty Barnes, like I'm good with the RJ Barrett rollout. When you look at the numbers, his numbers just kind of are good anyways. And there's no usage bump. There's no fantasy point per minute bump. He is just a good fantasy player. So I'm good with all of them. I think Maxey is your greatest leverage, especially if Embiid plays. But I do think that there's some names at the rest of the position we'll get to that are probably better.
Yeah, for sure. I do appreciate you guys again all tuning in here. Jerome in the chat, David in the chat, Josh popping in here as well. James also there. James, I'm checking the lineup generator now. Those who are ruled out are not in there. So if you are having any issues, just shoot a message over to support and we can help you out there. But generally, the lineup generator, if someone is ruled out, they should not be included. Maybe you have to just do a quick refresh on that one there. We had a question in the chat. I want to get your thoughts. I thought I explained it fairly well, but we had someone ask about chasing Amen Thompson. Do you consider it chasing playing Amen Thompson in the spot? No Fred VanVleet. Granted, coming off of a ceiling performance, but do you consider it chasing playing a guy at his price, given what we've gotten out of him this season?
I think that this is tricky because you can say that. And then you can consider the last conversation that we had when Houston was on a back-to-back. Do you remember that conversation?
Yes.
And that conversation,
he was limited.
I said, I think that there is a strong possibility that he is limited because there was a calf injury. And maybe we're past that, right? Maybe it's like something that Udoka and the staff are good with moving on. But it was the 27th and 28th of January, and it was a 4-point game, right? It was not a blowout. If you remember, Atlanta was coming back in that game. There was no foul trouble. There was no anything. Like, Amen Thompson was just simply limited because I think probably the worry of the calf, right? We talk about calves, and they're like, hey, one of the 3 best players in the world just got traded because of a continuance of a calf injury and a conditioning issue, right? Like that's the crux of that trade is based on conditioning and a calf that's reoccurred. So if you were to get full complement of minutes out of Amen Thompson, no, it is not chasing. But if you do believe that Houston looks at this and says, damn, we're down a bunch of starters and bunch of rotation players to injury, and we can't afford another one, and we can't, like, with our positioning in the West, like, do we want to risk it and push them another 40 minutes? Then, yeah, I mean, but that's not necessarily chasing. That's just like having perspective on what Houston has done in this situation just last week, right? Like, in basically same scenario. 40 minutes, big game, next day, Brooklyn Nets, Atlanta Hawks, similar kind of paths now that like Atlanta's down Jalen Johnson.
Was Houston without anybody else in that Atlanta game? Probably like no Tyrese, I would imagine.
There was no Tyrese, yes.
But they did have Fred VanVleet in that game, though?
Yes, they had Fred VanVleet. They did not have Steven Adams. They did not play Reed Shepherd.
Sure.
That was we played Cam Whitmore. We needed to play Jay Sean Tate game. if you remember that.
Right.
That was
Right.
So, like, I don't think it's chasing Amen Thompson. He is a very good fantasy player, clearly. End of story. No Van Vliet, no Eason, no
just him playing
Jabari.
the point guard position, right?
Yes.
Like that is just increases the ceiling. I laughed yesterday. Again, I gave out the 4.5 assists on Sirius XM, and he had 11. Right? It wasn't even close. Right?
Yeah.
Like he cashed it by halftime. It's like the book's not realizing he's the point guard when there's no Fred VanVleet. Like that's what he's doing on that offense there. So
now I will say you also factor in the last few games, there's no Şengün, right?
Sure.
And Houston operates differently with Şengün than they do without Şengün because they run the offense through Şengün in the high post.
Yep.
That is like even with a healthy team, that's what they're doing. So like that plus Amen Thompson's last back-to-back limitation I'm a little timid on it because
he's also $8,500, right? Like
he's also $8,500.
The price continues to jump up on him. He had just hit the 8Ks in that Atlanta game. And obviously, I paid it off after that. You have Thompson here, just said you got Halliburton at 85 as well. Austin Reeves also $8,500. Jalen Brunson, Tyler Hero rounding out the 8K tier.
Yeah, so I love Kyrie in this spot tonight. Point guard only. No PJ Washington. Anthony Davis isn't playing. No Derek Lively. No Quentin Grimes. Obviously, he was traded. No Maxi Kleber. He was traded. In those scenarios, it's a small sample. 28% usage, 1.4 fantasy points per minute. And we've talked about Kyrie's minutes lately. They have been sky high. I mean, max minutes for Kyrie. So I am sure that this is a little bit of a weird thing for Kyrie Irving going out there like all these trades around him, but like he's a professional. He is a professional scorer. He's a professional offensive player for a short-handed Dallas team in a good spot. Philly's bottom 10 defensively. So I really like Kyrie.
He should also feel confident in the fact that they chose him.
Yes, him and AD, right? They're building around him and Anthony Davis. That is what they're doing. They're like, hey, we can win now with you, and we can win now with Anthony Davis as our two lead catalysts. So I like Kyrie quite a bit. We'll talk Mitchell at shooting guard. I thought I really am high on that game in general, more so than I think I would typically be.
Yeah. Sorry.
Is there a trade?
No, just everybody's name is Cleveland Cavaliers are interested in DeAndre Hunter.
Oh no.
No.
Hey, it's good ad. That's a good.
Just every like this is what we're dealing with. What if they pull that trade off in the middle of the show, right?
Cleveland should, by the way, if that is serious, that would be you're competing with Boston. Like that is a great
another scoring wing, right? Like
we'll talk Mitchell at shooting guard. I think Halliburton is interesting, specifically if Miles Turner and Nesmith sit. Both are questionable. We won't know because that game is last on the slate. But I think if we get that news ahead of time, Halliburton 1.2 fantasy points a minute. What do we got?
Drummond out, Lowry out. We're getting the Philly news.
Okay. I'm assuming again. I am assuming we do get and Eric Gordon out too. By the way,
Eric Gordon also out tonight. Yep.
They also had KJ Martin on the injury report and Embiid, obviously. So I'm wondering like what iteration of this team is going to play. I am on Austin Reeves at 8,500 in this spot. I do like Jalen Brunson quite a bit. I don't love the Knicks listing all these guys necessarily on the injury report today.
Right.
But
Toronto may be a team where someone sits, right? Like back to back against a weaker opponent.
Yeah, I mean, we know the OG stuff. OG's out. Everyone else is like basically listed probable, except Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson is the only one that didn't get the injury designation.
Right.
He's always has an injury designation.
65 in 2 of the last 3. We've talked about the lack of ceilings out of Jalen Brunson lately, and here it is right there.
Well, it's interesting when OG Anunoby's off the floor. Jalen Brunson gets a 5.5% usage bump this year.
Crazy.
In like a big sample, 36% usage rate, John. 1.4 fantasy points per minute.
Because OG is not a high usage rate player. So
not a high usage rate player. 5.5% usage bump. Just OG Anunoby off the floor. 36% usage. Like that's a player that's 10K in like every scenario. So I like the fact that he's the one guy off the Knicks injury report. The ceiling is obviously tremendous. So I think Brunson's elite. And then Tyler Hero is in the best spot on the board, and Miami's getting all the ownership. Yeah. I mean, Miami is across. You just look, it's just ownership. Miami.
Hero actually like the least of the big.
It's mild.
Embiid officially available to play, as you were kind of theorizing there. But Hero coming in around 16%, while Bam and Rozier are up over 30. So definitely maybe a little bit of a leverage play. Khalil Ware's 20%. We knew Bam was the cover of the preview show. Like, we knew he was going to be a pretty popular play coming off of the back-to-back games that he's had. We just haven't seen this level of production from Bam basically all season. So it's all about the matchup here. But I'm certainly in on Tyler Hero, $8,400. I like Garland at 76. Like, this feels max minute spot for Cleveland. Whenever we get max minutes out of Garland, he is productive. I took the over 6.5 assists on him today. He's averaging 7.5 in 2 games. It all just feels pretty good here for Cleveland. So,
dude, this game is really appealing. No, there's like a bajillion points projected, 238 implied points, and a 1-point spread for the 2 best teams in the Eastern Conference. 2 of probably the 4 maybe best teams in the NBA. Mm-hmm. We saw what Cleveland.
And they're all healthy for the most part.
And it's a largely healthy game. I agree. I think you can safely get to a lot of this game in like any iteration of it, of like Garland Tatum, Garland Brown, Garland Zinger, Mitchell Tatum, like whatever. If you want to throw in Strus, you want to throw in, we
talked about LeVert at $3,800.
We talked about now. I guess it just depends on where they view how many more minutes we get Garland. Because if it's like Mitchell Garland 36 plus minutes, then probably like Jerome LeVert are squeezed a little, right? Like then this is a game I am targeting starters. Like, and we've talked about this with Boston before too. When Boston is fully healthy, they give their starters a lot of minutes, and there's not a lot of like reserve minutes, and that's kind of what it's going to, I think, be tonight. So
and nobody's playing the Cleveland side of this, and that's almost a little bit of leverage there, because if this game goes off for the 230 plus points, and
238
in the 1-point spread, and you're getting literally, as I'm looking at it right now, all of Cleveland is under 10%.
It's a good spot.
I mean, those points got to go somewhere.
It's a great spot. It is a great spot. And obviously, like, that's just both these teams are good defensively, right? It's like, what happened when Cleveland and OKC met and they had that magical game that was like 265 points. OKC is the number 1 rated defense in the league, and it was like the most perfectly executed offensive basketball game of the year. But I'm not like saying that this is guaranteed to be that. But what if it is? What if Boston hits 25 threes and Cleveland hits 20? Then you're talking like, okay, we're gonna have another one of those games. And I'm right there with you. Now I get why no one's playing Garland, because everyone's playing Josh Giddey at $6,900, and I get why people are playing Josh Giddey. He's a very high fantasy point per minute guy. Chicago has none of those trade pieces available tonight, plus no Talon Horton-Tucker, plus obviously no Zach LaVine, plus no Dalen Terry. Lonzo Ball might be traded by game time. Nikola Vucevic might be traded by game time. Kobe White might be traded by game time. Nobody's safe, seemingly, other than Matas Bazulis, possibly Josh Giddey.
Sure.
Because you basically turned DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine into Josh Giddey. Like,
yeah, I know.
That's like what you did. So, or DeRozan, Caruso, LaVine into Josh Giddey, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what you basically have to show for it. So I get why no one's playing Garland because everyone's playing Giddey, who, when he gets minutes, is an absolute fantasy goldmine. He's a fantasy goldmine when he gets minutes.
We've seen him. He fills it up the stat sheet. He was the frustrating thing for me the other day. I took the Patrick Williams rebounds over 4. I went right back to the well with that again today too. I went over 4 rebounds for Patrick Williams. But Giddey was on the floor forever, and he had 10 rebounds in that game because he's a great rebounding guard. He's just out there. He's out there grabbing boards.
Do you want to hear the Nick Nurse quote on Embiid?
I saw it, but you can read it out to the folks at home.
There is no hard cap on Joel Embiid's minutes.
Yep.
Nick Nurse said 30 minutes is a realistic expectation for Joel Embiid.
He's playing 35.
Rip.
He's going out there and playing 35.
Off rip, 30 minutes, Joel Embiid. As a baseline, as a realistic expectation, 30 minutes.
Feels like he could go out there tonight against Dallas and be the best player on the slate.
Crazy.
It's crazy. Jalen says single entry lineup. I'm not sure when that question came in.
I think that came in during the Garland. I think it was Garland conversation.
I'm fine playing Garland in a single entry. Probably. I mean, James and I only play single entries for the most part, so I'd be cool putting him in. Again, he's under 10%, so you want to talk single entry leverage. If he goes out there and gives you 40 plus fantasy points tonight, it's all there. All right, mid-tier range. Under $7,000 at the point guard spot.
Yeah.
Do we think quickly gets any increase in playing time with no RJ tonight?
I don't know.
Okay.
15 and 17. It's tough to assume the leap would be massive.
Yeah.
Because again, it was a hip strain. So like, there's not like, I'm assuming a lot of things you can do physically with a hip strain.
Yeah, Yabu will play the 4 tonight, by the way. So he's going to start at the power forward.
Unless he's traded before lock to the Celtics. Jesus Christ. I mean, this is a nightmare. I'm probably not getting there and quickly. You know, if Dinwiddie's in the starting lineup, I think you can make a case for that because Dallas is obviously very shorthanded considering what they've dealt the last few games. I think Keon Johnson, Lonzo Ball are a little bit interesting. The Lonzo stuff is just nerve-wracking because I like the minutes and stuff, and I like the Bulls' shorthanded team, but like that shorthanded team could just become more shorthanded at any moment. They've already just said like we are blowing it up.
So here's the thing. There's two conflicting reports. One is that the Bulls are not actively shopping Lonzo and actually would look to extend him. And then there are reports that teams are calling Chicago about Lonzo Ball. So
yeah, and then there's a buyout, and then there's the buyout conversation where if he doesn't get traded, he is like a prime buyout candidate because his contract and all that stuff. But
so make up your mind, Chicago. Do you want him or not?
I mean, like, I think of any player on their roster, Vooch is your most likely traded player, right? Like, Nikola Vucevic is the guy that's traded before anybody, just given he's the oldest player on their team and all that stuff. But, like, man, if Lonzo plays, I mean, they're running their 4-guard lineup, and I don't see – I guess they could change that tonight, but I thought they would have changed the last game, and they didn't. So, yeah, I think Lonzo is definitely fine. And then everyone's getting to Terry Rozier at 46. I think that's a solid play. He's been good lately.
Yeah, and you called him out, obviously, on the preview show. The minutes have been legitimate. He's finally getting back to being the Terry Rozier that we're kind of used to seeing.
Yeah, the one that's bet on himself a bunch.
One that bets on himself, yeah. And the price tag, obviously, is pretty legit there. Again, wouldn't mind getting to the Boston guards if you wanted to with Drew Holiday. $4,600 just feels like in this spot where, like, what do we talk about, right? When Boston plays these type of games, like, even Peyton Pritchard doesn't see the floor. He plays like 22 minutes. Drew Holiday goes out there for 35. At $4,600, this is a pretty good price tag for Jrue Holiday.
Yes, I completely agree. And if we get 34, 35 minutes, I mean, there's always those random Jrue Holiday blow up where he makes 6 threes, and you're
That's
like,
just it. They close out on everybody, and Drew's just by himself in the corner for a three. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
We mentioned LeVert. LeVert is the second highest rostered Cav, still under 10%, but there is some ownership love for the Cleveland side going his way. It's him and Jarrett Allen as the top 2 rostered Cleveland plays. Would you go with anybody else here at point guard?
What do you think of Deuce? He is currently pretty popular tonight.
So he was in the initial starting lineup yesterday, and then they swapped him out for.
But he closed. But then he closed,
right.
Which I think Precious barely played in the fourth quarter. Precious played 34 minutes and barely played in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. I mean, the minutes were good. He obviously wasn't very good.
No. It's hard to be when Brunson is.
I would like him to start, I think.
I would. I mean, I don't see it changing, but I guess
if you play him, you just have to know what the floor is. Obviously, I mean,
which is 0.
Which is 0. You just don't know, right? We've seen that before too.
Yeah,
he's starting roster lock. Psych, he's sick. He's not playing.
Yes, and even if he is starting, he might not be starting because he was starting. Right. This is the second time he's been starting and not starting.
I know. So I don't know. I'm iffy, but I get it. Shooting guard. You mentioned you want to talk Donovan Mitchell here, which is fine. Again, no one is playing Donovan Mitchell tonight. Last couple of games, not great. Blowout aided, obviously. But from a fantasy perspective, averaging 35 actual in 2 games against Boston this year in 37.5 minutes. He is not going to come off the floor. He's going to take a lot of shots. It's $8,600. He's an elite player. No one's playing him. So
you said something in there that was most important. You said the number 37.5.
37.5, yeah.
Those were the minutes, right? Why don't you go to at a glance and look at Donovan Mitchell's seasonal average of minutes? Yeah, do you 31. Think that it matters to Cleveland when they play Boston to have their minutes extended, John? Yes or no?
I think it probably also against the fact that they're just in competitive games against Boston.
Yes.
So, because that was the big thing we've talked about with Cleveland this year is that they were just housing everybody during that start. That they were none of these guys were ever playing, competitive games here. But against Boston, 12 of 21 for 55 fantasy points, 117, 120, 115, 111. Close games, 40 minutes against Boston there, 50 fantasy points. So it is the way it is. Anthony Embiid is a go, and apparently also doesn't have a minutes limit. So it's going to play around 30, which Nick Nurse could mean 30 to 40. So
he might not come off the floor. Straight 48 for Joel.
But listen, Donnie Mitch at low ownership, great tournament plays. You mentioned 238 game total, 1 point spread, a lot leaning into the favor of Cleveland for tournaments. Same game, other side. Jalen Brown, 8K, been awesome. Yes. Again, gonna have a lot of opportunities to score fantasy points in this game. I like that we're getting the peripheral stats out of him, averaging almost 6 and 5. That's great for Jalen Brown. So definitely in even at the 8K price tag. Jalen Green, Norm Powell, also 2 guys that we've played a lot of. I like Norm at $6,900. The price goes down on him because the minutes are going up for Kawhi, I guess, but his production is not falling off at all. So let's just keep taking advantage of this, I guess.
Now there has been a dip in usage, and I was looking at this with Kawhi. And I'm not saying he doesn't spend every minute of his time with Kawhi, right? They stagger minutes, and they should. With Kawhi, the usage was only 20%. That's the one thing I'd say. The fantasy points per minute still fine, 1.13. That's still really good, especially considering the prices come down. And you mentioned it, the production hasn't fallen off, but it is at least worth mentioning that the usage rate of 28% on the year is 20. When
he still gets his shot, so the ball is just not basically facilitating through him as much, I guess, is the way the usage rate would it be impacted there.
Anthony, why would we assume Boston blows Cleveland out?
I don't think Boston blows out Cleveland. I think we're going to get a competitive game. Is Tatum a must play? 18% of the field is playing Jason Tatum tonight, so pretty decent amount on JT.
It's a great play.
So I don't know if he's a must play. I am probably going to get suckered into Joel Embiid, I think, now.
Oh, no.
After that news.
After
that news. But
no.
I do like Norm Powell a lot. Again, Jalen Green, this was the conversation in our Discord. And for those of you who are Fantasy Star members, you have access to our premium Discord. If you're not a Fantasy Star member, we got the 7-day free trial. That will also give you access to our premium Discord. Conversation was playing Amin Thompson or Jalen Green. A member in our Discord had played Jalen Green last night. Did not play Amin Thompson. Obviously, Thompson had the big game last night. Jalen Green is shooting. Jalen Green is not making his threes. If Jalen Green was to hit his threes, he'd be 45 fantasy points, pretty much. That's just what you're at. Is Jalen Green going to go out tonight against Brooklyn and go 4 for 8 or 6 for 11 from 3? Because if he does, 45 fantasy points. It's great. If he doesn't, 35 fantasy points. It's all about whether or not he hits his threes or not.
Yeah, and the numbers bear out Jalen Green being a great play. 4% usage bump with the 3 guys that are out, 32% usage essentially 1.34 fantasy points per minute. Those are all elite numbers. So if you want to play Jalen Green, then I think you're going to get him at really low ownership. And also, Anthony, to your point, Boston may be the defending champions, but they're not the best team in the East right now. Cleveland is ahead 5.5 games. Cleveland is the number 1 seed by 5.5 games. Does that mean they're the better team and going to win the finals? No, but I don't know why you'd assume in a 1-point spread against the number 1 team in the East that's 40-9 that Boston's just going to. Now they can beat anybody by 25.
I mean, they haven't blown them out yet, right? I just showed you guys they played 2 games within 5 points. So, I don't think they're going to blow them out. They're on Boston on the road in Cleveland. I don't think that's a blowout scenario. All right, so Norm and Jalen Green are there. Kobe White, $6,400. Anthony Simon, $6,400. D'Angelo Russell is $6,400.
Yeah, I'm largely indifferent about this tier. I think Kobe White is fine. I think they're all fine. I don't think there's like a priority of the 3. Kobe White's getting a bunch of ownership. He has a solid usage rate with all the guys being out that are out. I don't know. I don't love it. I think this tier is fine.
Okay.
No strong takes on it.
With no PJ Washington, do we think Klay Thompson does better than 1 for 10 shooting? There's no Grimes now either.
Yeah, I mean, I think he has a better chance to have a better night with like Kyrie operating as your primary ball handler. More opportunity for. I mean, he was sharing the starting lineup with Omax and Kyler Kelly, right? Like it's who are you closing out to in those 3 scenarios? I'm telling you right now, I don't care if Klay missed 15 straight. I'd be closing out to him. I do think the opportunity is there for him. Not like a priority, but of course, like he can get hot and make a lot of shots.
Obviously, there's Max Christie here as well, who's going to play tonight for Dallas. So now they don't have Grimes, 1 less rotation player. We had a question on Exum. What do we think about Dante Exum down here? Where's his price tag?
What do we think of Dante Exum? He's a small forward. We'll get to him next.
Small forward. All right, we'll talk about Dante Exum. I thought he used to be a shooting guard. I guess we'll talk about him at small forward. Got the minutes-ish the other day, so he was pretty good in that run.
Yeah,
any other value then, I guess, in shooting guard?
It was a good extension because they need to extend him quickly.
Yes.
They're trading away everybody else.
If they're trying to trade him, they need to show people he can play.
Or everyone else. They need him to play, because he fits their mold.
We go back to the Whitmore well, no Tari Eason tonight?
Yes.
$3,600 for him.
I think
only got 23 minutes in that game, but
yeah, he didn't close, only played 23 minutes. I think there's a lot of things to like about this spot for Cam Whitmore. One, the fact that with the 3 players out, he has a 28% usage rate. That's really good. That's only trailing Jalen Green. Also 1.13 fantasy points per minute. That's 4th on the team. Plus, if Amin Thompson's limited, there's extra minutes to be had. Plus, there's 3 starters out. That's great. There's a lot to like about Cam Whitmore. just considering what they have and what they possibly will limit as well. And the price is going down. Plus, you never want to predict blowout. I don't like to. There's obviously a path. I know Brooklyn outright beat Houston the other day.
Yeah.
They also in the last month have scored 67 points in a game. So like that team is bad. So if that game gets out of hand, there's also that path to Cam Whitmore minutes. I am very comfortable playing Whitmore in like low 20-minute role, just given how high of a fantasy per minute player he is. Let me ask you this, right? Grady Dick is one of the highest rostered players of the day.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying Grady Dick's a bad play. I think Grady Dick's fine. He's
always been better when there's been other people out of the lineup, right? So.
Right. And truthfully, the only reasons he didn't play minutes in those Pelicans Hawks games, and you and I had talked about this, was foul trouble.
Yeah.
And then you see him right away, 29, 33 minutes. Like minutes are all the way back. No RJ Barrett. I think there's a case to play Whitmore over him. If you can sell yourself on Amen Thompson being limited, I think that Cam Whitmore has mid 20 minutes upside. And then you're talking about super elite usage rate guy in Cam Whitmore.
I mean, if you think that Quickly is still limited to say 20, say he gets bumped up to 20, right?
Yes.
So now you have a limited Quickly. Bruce Brown is still questionable in this one, right?
Yes.
If Bruce Brown wasn't to play and you have a limited Quickly,
yes, then then Grady Dick's a really solid
Grady Dick's a really good play because he's going to be on the floor with Barnes like we saw earlier this year where he's just launching shots.
Yep.
So what do you think about Dalton Connect in that same range? Nah.
There is obviously a path.
No Max Christie now. There's a whole bunch of minutes.
There's a path. I mean, their starting lineup is James, Reeves, Hachimura, Hayes, the fifth starter, TBD, right? Could it be Connect?
Could be looking at him. Right?
Could be Finney-Smith.
Yep.
Could be Gabe Vincent. They love Gabe Vincent.
Sure.
Suddenly,
either way, it should at least open 25 off the bench.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I don't love it. I would play Gabe Vincent, or I would play Grady Dick ahead of him.
Sure.
I would probably play Cam Whitmore ahead of him as well.
I don't even really argue that. Just kind of pointing out that there could be more minutes available.
Sure. And he's lower owned than both those guys. So if you wanted leverage, you could play him.
Yep. Small forward. Again, Jason Tatum's getting 17%, 18% at the last update here. Coming off 65, 66, had 52 fantasy points before that. It's averaging 60 in 2 games. I mean, there are moments where Jason Tatum looks like an MVP, and then there are moments where he doesn't. So if you build a lineup around Jason Tatum tonight, you're obviously paying $10K for the ceiling, which he's given you twice in like 10 games. So what do you think? Are you buying into the Jason Tatum chalk tonight?
Yeah, I think the way that I would personally handle this, and I'm not like someone that ever looks at the situation but like I have to stack this, but I want exposure to both sides. If you're playing Tatum, you're not thinking that this game blows out. You're expecting 240 implied points that is being projected to happen. You're projecting monster minutes for both sides. You're projecting Boston going for it down 5.5 in the standings. You're expecting Cleveland going for it to go 6.5, right? Like that's like you are expecting these teams to go like full minutes for everybody.
Yeah.
So if I'm playing Jason Tatum, I want someone on the other side of this game. I want a Garland. I'm pairing him with a Mobley. I'm pairing him with a Mitchell, Allen, whatever you want. I think that it would make sense for that to be where you allocate your funds tonight. So yeah, I love Jason Tatum, but I do think like him plus a Cav at low ownership makes a lot of sense. Because if you get Tatum go for 60 and Garland go for 50 in a game with 200 a game that goes for 240 implied points and it's close, well, you're likely going to be on a lower end side of a Cleveland piece in likely the best game on the board. Because when you look at the other games, How many other games do you feel? It's the NBA. Anything is possible. Kevin Garnett taught us that.
Yeah, anything's possible.
How many other games do you feel can hit 240 points tonight? Like legitimately, like pop off, and it's again, anything's possible. That's the one game I look at. I'm like, this has like the best two of the best 5 offenses in the NBA.
I mean, the new look or the new trending Portland Trailblazers, right? The way they're winning basketball games.
Fair. If they don't rest anyone on the second line.
Max Christie's going to play off the bench. Caleb Martin will not make his debut today, so we'll see who starts for Dallas because they're now down. Obviously, PJ Washington. We got to see you. I imagine Prosper probably starts in his
that would be my guess. Yeah, that would be my guess.
And we'll see what happens with the rest of that lineup there. All right, so Tatum's there. Talk Barnes and I'm in Thompson already. Jalen Brown. You have Josh Hart at $7,700. Hart did me a huge solid last night, collecting a rebound with 0.2 seconds left to go over the 7.5 on his goblin there. We're always just fine playing Josh Hart, but if guys are out, obviously would improve his value.
Yeah, I mean, I think we know OG's out, so he's been a 1.09 fantasy point per minute player. I think that's a really solid number. At 7,700, he has more assist upside when Jalen Brunson doesn't have 20 of them, and he has more rebound upside as we've seen repeatedly throughout the year. He's 6'5" and 6'4", he's averaging 10 rebounds a game. So I am more than okay playing a guy who plays 40 minutes a night.
We have Kawhi at 7K, and then Denny, who you and I.
Dude, this is a nightmare. This guy's a nightmare.
Overtime, granted, but still.
39 minutes in regulation.
39 in regulation. Pick the matchup, pick the night, maybe he was just feeling it and they liked how he was out there. It would be a great spot to play 38 minutes of Denny Avdija tonight if you knew he was going to be out there for 38 minutes. I have no idea how many minutes this man's going to play. He's about the only Blazer we don't know how many minutes they're going to play.
I know. Everything else we know. Yeah. The only scenario we know is if people sat, right? Like if Jeremy Grant sat and like we know that Denny probably going to play a lot. Because they played 8 guys last night, and one of them played 10 minutes. Klingon played 10 minutes, so short rotation for the Trailblazers right now.
Yeah. Where are you on Kawhi? Just didn't hit any shots for Toronto.
Yeah. I mean, he's 30% usage rate on the floor this year. That's a really good. Maybe
we finally get him up over 30 tonight.
Yeah, and some of these games, like the Charlotte game, Spurs game, he like got taken out at the end because like why risk it?
Yeah,
like the game's in hand. So, I like Kawhi. I think Kawhi's good. I think Bridges is good. That is a crazy price. Where
else are you looking at small forward?
Bridges is solid. Bridges has looked pretty good lately, and
you're finally coming around.
I mean, I don't love. It's not like the numbers are like
they don't pop. I agree. He just gets it done
with OG off the floor. 20.8% usage, like fine, right? 21% usage is fine. 0.85 fantasy points per minute. No. The reason that works is because you get 40 minutes out of Bridges, right? Like. If he plays 40 minutes, he pays off the salary more often than not. So yeah, Bridges is fine. I would have more interest in Mathurin if D. Smith sat, but like the minutes are just torpedoed. Rui, the numbers don't look good, but he's looked good. So what do you trust? A shorthanded Lakers team with like Rui looking the best he's looked versus the numbers, because they are not good. He's like 0.7 fantasy points per minute this year.
I've been going back and forth all day. Maybe you can just completely push me off the edge here on Rui 1.5 3-pointers, because he's been taking them. He's going to have a ceiling amount of minutes available to him today. He hasn't been a great 3-point shooter, but he's been good
this year. This year he has.
This year he has been good. So 1.5 feels like a good number for him.
He's about like what 4-5 attempts a game,
yeah,
a
like
little
in
less
that
than
range. But that's the thing. Like there are days where he doesn't take a lot of them, so he's got to hit them. You know,
it's a brutal spot. Like pace is terrible.
Yeah.
So
fringy.
It's a tough one because he has obviously he's gonna play 40 minutes tonight, given what the Lakers have, right? Like you're gonna get 40 minutes out of Rui Hachimura,
and he stands in a corner. Like his job is to lock it down.
It's just not in a great spot.
Yeah, probably a no play, but I've looked at it. I've looked at it a lot today.
I'm not saying it's bad. I mean, he's making a lot of shots. He has 2 really good passers in LeBron and in Reeves delivering him the ball. So like, I can see it. It's like you said, I'm very on the fence about it. In DFS, I think he's definitely solid in props, 1.5 threes. Like, can get there. I think Zaire
went by Tamani Kamara.
I did conveniently go by him. I'd rather like.
You hate the price, but the man is on the floor all the time.
I know. Look, it's fine. It is what it is. It's fine. It is what it is, dude. You're right. He played 40 regulation minutes. Like I've never doubted the minutes. Like I've never doubted the minutes, and I've been the first person to say like he's not coming off the floor because he is simply their best defender. Like he is a very good on-ball defender that guards the opponent's best player.
Yep.
He is a very good rebounder, especially on the offensive glass. He always slashes from the corner and has like tip-ins and whatnot.
My man's hit 5 threes.
If he's gonna score, then he's gonna score. And I have to reconfigure my thought.
Yeah.
It is also not consistent, and that's why I think the price is like a little like. I would rather just eat chalk with like someone I consider similar in Zaire Williams.
Look at these like shooting numbers though. The last 10 games, 64% from the field and 56%.
That's like the thing, right? It's such an aberration. I would rather just take a shot on Zaire Williams for cheaper, who is like similar-ish type player. Better eligibility. The minutes have been really good. I'm not saying they will be really good, but they've been good. He's popular. He's cheaper. I would just rather do that.
Yeah.
Probably.
All right. That's fine. We like Zaire Williams. I'm cool there. What else do we think happens here? Philly, again, as we mentioned, no Lowry.
Bruce Brown in, Chris Boucher out.
Okay. Well, hurts Grady Dick a little bit.
Still, the minutes well, there's no Barrett. Maybe we get I think they'll start Agbaji, but I assume Brown Agbaji probably split more than Barrett Brown, or more than Grady Dick and Bruce Brown.
What do we do with Philly here?
So I think
they're starting Yabu at the 4.
So what I think they'll do, because they don't have Gordon. So what I think they'll do is Maxey Embiid, Yabu, Oubre, Edwards. That would be my guess. Edwards would probably be the 5th guy, because we've also heard Nick Nurse specifically talk like he's going to probably be in the rotation when we're healthy. And now they traded Caleb Martin and have to acclimate Quentin Grimes in. So my assumption is Edwards is the 5th starter. I don't think any of it matters. We're taking 2 guys
back now.
Dude, there is 40% usage rate for 2 players. I don't think you can safely play anything else.
Okay.
And I think it's largely just ignore. I just don't see a scenario where you can play it at all.
Yep. All right, let's get to the excellent question that we had. He played 21 minutes in that game against Cleveland. He was pretty good. 14 actual, 2 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals. He started the other day.
He did.
He could start tonight. We don't have a lineup out yet, but
Irving, Gafford, Clay.
Yeah.
Right? For sure.
Yeah.
Do they do the Dinwiddie? Second guard, they've been doing that. So do you play Dinwiddie and Omax?
Yeah.
Or do you do Prosper, or do you do Najee Marshall in there, right?
I thought Najee would make the most sense to start at the 4, but again, they like Prosper.
They've played him.
They play him a lot.
Now, if they don't do that, they could go Exum. Obviously, they got him in the starting lineup. Nobody was available. So it's just impossible to tell. Like, it was him, Clay, Kyler Kelly, Prosper, and I don't even know who, Dinwiddie. So, it's hard to, the thing I'd say is we're going to know if he's starting Exum because that's 7 p.m. on an island. Like, that game is the island game tonight. I would probably only play him in a scenario he's starting. Okay. Because I still think we can play Cam Whitmore for $100 more. And you just definitively know Cam Whitmore's getting on the floor. He's never seen a shot he doesn't like.
Yeah.
Would you play Avdija 34 if he's starting?
Okay. You like Avdija? Yeah.
I'm asking, would you? I don't.
No, I don't think so.
With Bruce Brown in, I think I would have considered it if Bruce Brown didn't play.
Yeah. I mean, would you go back to Bruce Brown? Where is his price up at 41?
Maybe.
Okay. Because he was good when he was extended due to the foul trouble of Grady Dick, but now there's no RJ and a limited quickly. Like, there's got to be potentially more minutes available to him.
Well, the quickly backup minutes that were available, he didn't get. And now they have Davion back. Davion was out last game.
True.
Right? So, Davion's back.
Barrett's going to be out 4 to 5 days with concussion protocol, huh?
Is that the update is that? Oh, no. Yeah, he's going to miss. He apparently, I was actually watching it, and I turned to my wife he slammed his head. He stayed in the game, and he played, and then was complaining about headaches the next day. Maybe feeling a little off here.
Yeah, Anthony, hard to get the council just because one, Embiid is back, so and they're starting Yabu, so they may not even play. They don't need to rotate council in as often. So
he's gonna probably play because Gordon and Lowry are out.
Yeah,
but they haven't officially ruled KJ Martin out, so they'd probably play KJ Martin over council tonight, right? If KJ Martin returned, all those council minutes probably shift to KJ Martin.
Agreed. All right. Power forward. We've had a lot of people in chat questioning LeBron James. MD1, but we had other questions regarding LeBron.
I know, but he was the first one I saw.
It was.
Classic MD calling out the best player of the slate.
10-8 now on this slate, where there certainly are other options to get to. Do you find yourself looking to play LeBron James tonight? LeBron James is not getting a ton of ownership, so
no.
Can I get that going there?
So I think it's a conversation you and I have often, right? Great players in bad spots can win you a tournament because they're great players.
Yep.
Right? That's just what it is. My notes tell me, John, according to my notes, no AD, no D'Lo, no Max Christie. LeBron James, 8.5% usage bump. That's pretty good. 39% usage rate total. That's also pretty good. 1.5 fantasy points per minute. That's the trifecta, right? High usage rate, big bump, a lot of fantasy points per minute, shorthanded team. It's a terrible spot, but he's getting no ownership. So if you're looking at it from a tournament perspective, LeBron is great leverage. Yep. I don't agree with LeBron being considered a bad play. Can LeBron flop? Of course. Clippers are great defensively. They're slow. Lakers are shorthanded.
20 game total. It's one of the lowest on the board. There's a lot against LeBron, and we agree to that. But we're also just reading you the numbers, right? These are the statistics. When these guys are off the floor, this is LeBron James. This is what he's capable of doing. No one's playing him. So we're not, it's not like he's 35%. We're saying, hey, fade the chalk tonight. Or just giving you a tournament play if you're interested in the numbers. 1.5 fantasy points per minute, elite.
39%
30,
usage.
40% usage rate is elite.
You don't see many players get 8.5% usage bumps either. Like you definitively know, okay, like this already high usage player just simply has the ball in his hands at all times.
Yep. So just throwing it out there. Don't need to play them, but there are obviously, if you are cool with the tournament leverage, if you're okay with some of the risk that's involved there, and he goes for 70 like he did the other night at 5%, there's a good chance that you're outscoring the field. Jerome, so the wording on this one was a little bit interesting. It wasn't a 30-minute cap. It said that he was going to play around 30 minutes, which can mean anything. If he said 25 to 30, then like, all right, 30-minute cap. He just said around 30. That could mean 33, could mean 27, could mean 38. We don't know. It's Nick Nurse. He plays his starters a lot of minutes. This one could also just be game flow dependent as well. If they're up big, Embiid plays less. If it's closer, Embiid plays more. It could be shift related. Embiid's a guy that like plays the whole first or like half, 8 minutes of the first and plays like most of the second quarter or whatever. It could just be spurts related there. So all of it's kind of questionable. Tatum, as we've talked about, 98 can play him 17%, 18% ownership. We really liked Siakam last night. He's up to $8,000 on this slate, so a bit more expensive. Portland's been winning basketball games, but they're still not good defensively.
They've been winning a lot of games, so many games.
So he's $8,000. Mobley, you got the dual positional eligibility with Bam, who's the highest rostered player on the slate today. What are your thoughts here, power forward?
Yeah, I mean, Siakam, and I'll tie this into Ryan's question where he asks if Miles Turner sits. It's hard to tell. He sat the front leg of a back-to-back. Usually, like, you don't see players play in the second leg, but that also might be, like, precautionary. Keep him out on the front leg, play him on the second leg. So there's no way of telling it. But if he's out, Siakam's obviously super solid. I am with the field. I told you last night. I mean, Bam was someone that we looked right at and was like, hey, you look really good offensively.
Yeah, right now. Yeah.
And you haven't looked this good, but we know you can. But, like, I've always thought Bam's ability to pass was, like, the most unique part of his game because, like, he can operate at every level and can do everything on the floor. And 2 of the last 3 games, we've gotten max assist games out of Bam where he's almost had back-to-back, or 2 out of the last 3, he's almost had triple doubles. And I think that's when he's at his best. And we're getting him in the best spot on the board. So that's the spot that I personally am going to. I think Mobley is a great tournament play. He actually, when you look at the numbers, without Okoro, without Dean Wade, he leads them in fantasy points per minute. Not usage rate, that's Mitchell and Garland. But fantasy points per minute, Evan Mobley's your clubhouse leader. So another guy, John, 29.5 minutes per game this year for Evan Mobley. 36.5 minutes per game against Boston. Like, that's not a coincidence. So I think Bam, I'm with the field on thinking Bam's the best play here at this tier. But I do like Mobley and Siakam in tournaments. Mostly Siakam if there's no Turner and Nesmith, but I think they're both fine in tournaments for sure.
Bam with the power forward eligibility is such an elite here because it allows you to play a center. Right?
So elite.
Plays a center with him there. I loved PJ Washington. I'm super upset.
So did I.
Lineup.
Dude, I wrote up his points were set at 14.5 today.
15.5. I put it in the Discord. I was like, hey, I got a prize fix free play today. Here's my pick 6, which you guys can go still check out in that Discord if you're in there. And like 15.5 for PJ, like free money, like plug him in. And then like 10 minutes later, PJ Washington out. I'm like,
exactly what I did today. Exactly. The start of my article today was just PJ Washington. And then 10 minutes, we were on the same timeline. 10 minutes later, he was out. And I was like, okay.
So now my pick 6 is down to a pick 5, which is disappointing because it goes from a 25x to like a 15x.
Come on, PJ. What personal matter could you have?
Seriously.
I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. Hopefully it's not serious, and I hope everything's okay.
All right. We've talked Kawhi, Denny. we can't play Yabu next to Embiid. That feels like a bad idea. Jeremy Grant's 57. Jovic 5K. Do you like anything here?
Grant to me feels like the most likely to sit for Portland tonight.
Okay.
I said that to you, I think last week, because he was coming off that injury recently. We don't know. We don't have no data on Portland, but again, 40.
Yeah, we'll get their
minutes.
injury report in like half an hour, right?
Yeah, 40 minutes of every starter last night seems, possible that someone sits. If he plays, it's good to see him play 40 minutes. Massively paced up game. Indiana 19th defensive rating. So good spot for Grant. But no, nothing like really stands out. You know what stands out the most to me? The Nikola Jovic ownership tonight stands out the most to me.
Nikola Jovic ownership. Let's see. What do we got Jovic at? Jovic is at 20%.
The second highest. Oh, salute to PJ. That's great news. Salute to him. Dad power.
Child?
Dad power to me and PJ. Yep, child. Jovic is the second highest rostered power forward of the day. What do you make of that?
Well, you know where you team Jovic, right? We were first. We were like first team Jovic fans.
First team. We're all first team.
We're always first team. We again, I'm not saying we're the only show in town that identifies good young players, but like, we have a really good track record of being like, this dude looks like he could be good like a year before he's good.
Can I just Ime Udoka, interesting quote here. Alperen Şengün, although listed probable, is a game time decision per Ime Udoka.
Is it an illness?
I believe it is. No, he has a real injury. It's been a real injury for like multiple days.
Yeah, calf injury. With calf injuries, as we talk about, not good.
Him and Landale are both game time decisions, which I find that wording weird because he was listed probable earlier today.
Yeah, now a game time.
Per Udoka, yeah. Now a game time decision.
That would be super because they don't have Tara Easton tonight.
No, and possibly no Landale. They would literally have Jeff Green and Steven Adams, who played really well off the bench again yesterday, as their centers tonight. And
it would just lock in Cam Whitmore, I think, minutes.
Oh boy.
Just throwing out there. Back to Jovic here. I'm in. I like this player. I think this player is a good player.
This player is a good player.
We're getting stabilized-ish minutes-ish. I think he's good for 25 plus. I wish they would move on from Hayward Highsmith. I wish that guy did not exist on the roster.
Yeah, they can't. They
but
have to give him his 20 minutes.
Chicago is a good matchup for opposing teams in DFS.
Yes.
I would be pretty happy to play Jovic at 5K. Chalky Jovic, though.
That's what, right there. That's the one. That's the one. The ownership is where I am. Yeah. I am definitely below the field.
I mean, he's given you 7 or more X in 3 of the last 4.
I'm below the field. I'm below the field at the second highest rostered power forward of the day.
If he gives you 30 fantasy points at 5K and you don't have him, you're probably chasing a little bit.
Well, there's 7 games. Fortunately, I can make that up. I'm playing low in Cleveland, so like I can make that up elsewhere.
That's fair. Prosper starts. Do you got to play him at 41?
I don't think you have to play him, but he's fine.
Yeah.
I like Bazulis. I think is in that same boat where they have clearly shifting towards Matas Bazulis minutes prioritization. No Hart Tucker
points today, right? Over 9.5.
Over 9.5. Which is silly because they've ruled out like multiple wings. They've traded Levine. None of the new guys are playing. They have a very shortened team.
Yeah.
They got rid of Craig. They got rid of Duarte. They have all these guys in the G League. Matas Bazulis is going to play a bunch.
Yeah.
So
does he feel like Ricochet-ish when he's like all of a sudden he has an opportunity just to start playing minutes and hey, he's productive.
Dude, there's reports where he's not tradable. Matas Bazulis, like first round pick, really skilled athletic dude. So I would probably rather play Bazulis than Prosper personally.
So you got 19 minutes there out of Toppin, even without Miles Turner?
I would probably prefer the Jarris Walker route if Neesmith and Turner sat, but I think there's a case for probably both of them if they both sit.
Anything else here?
Yeah, I mean, Jayshawn Tate's getting a lot of ownership.
Yeah,
a lot. And he's
$3,100.
The last two times Jayshawn Tate's been extended, he has been legit. So at least not a high usage player. There's nothing to see there. Not even great like per minute. But if Şengün does not play and Landale does not play,
super small lineup.
They are really just
unless you don't think they just jam us like 30 minutes of Steven Adams, do they? like.
Not on a back-to-back. I would be surprised if they did that. I don't think Steven Adams has played 1-2 back-to-backs, and in one of the back-to-backs that he's played less than 10 minutes in each.
Yeah.
So, like, he played 26 minutes yesterday. I'd have a hard time believing it. Maybe he's just healthy. But they would just be forced to go really small, and I think Jayshawn Tate benefits from that.
Okay. Center. JoJo is $9,600 as we've gotten reports. He is going to play, and he has a minutes range of around 30. When Joel Embiid has played 30 minutes this year, he's been pretty damn good. When he's played more than 30 minutes, he's been even better. Where does Embiid fit for you now with the range of Towns? If Şengün's in, Vuk, like how does he fit for you?
I don't think I'm going here.
Okay.
I'm not saying he can't go off. He's one of the best players in the NBA when he's on the floor. But
long layoff.
It's a long layoff. So we've suggested, and I understand like being in before the field is and stuff, because we know his price what it's going to be when he's like active and healthy and stuff.
Tonight, he's 10-6 on the next slate.
My only concern like is the layoff, and I'm already like, would I play Tatum over him? I would. Would I play like LeBron over him? I would. Would I like play a lot of mid-tier options like Mitchell, Kyrie, Brunson, Hero, Bam over him? I would. So like, it's not a priority for me tonight. I think I'd prefer Towns. I prefer Şengün. I prefer Vooch.
Okay. Bam obviously can be played here.
Yes.
You have Zubac, Gafford. We had a Porzingis question from Anthony at $7,100. DeAndre Ayton was the cover of the live show tonight. What are we thinking in this mid-range?
Yeah, I think all these guys it's a really strong mid-tier. Bam is obviously, we talked about, he's great. Zubac is, the Lakers are in trouble with the way that they're going to operate. They're probably going to play a lot of small ball, and that helps Zubac if they keep him in the game. Gafford, will he stay out of foul trouble, I guess is the question, now that it's Embiid on the other side and not Yabusele.
Yeah.
So I definitely think you can get there. To Anthony's question, I like Kristaps Porzingis. We've seen Kristaps extended a couple times, and there's also, we've gotten ceilings lately, and there hasn't really been a floor. Like, his floor only happens when there's no minutes. But in any competitive game, 30 minutes is safely on the table, and he is just so good per minute.
Second highest rostered Celtic on the night. Drew Holiday is there. We got an ownership update. Tatum's dropping down a little bit now, down to 13% for Jason Tatum.
It's good. That's a really good number. But I think Porzingis should be. I've said this to you since this team has been formed. Tatum and Porzingis are always the most comfortable rosters for me, because like Tatum's their best player and Porzingis does so much on both ends of the floor that he's never priced at like like Jaylen Brown over 8K. He's never that. Porzingis just stays around 7K. So I like Porzingis. Dude, DeAndre Ayton has been
dominating.
Dude, he really has like been great. And And obviously, like the 25 and 20 is not sustainable. But when you look at like the usage rates for DeAndre Ayton lately, everything is really high. It's his points were, I took his points tonight, 16.5. He's had significant 20+% usage games lately. All of the last 6 games or 5 games that he scored 20+ points. And then on the flip side of that, like 5 of the 7 prior, he had less than 20%. And you see the production. I mean, it was essentially a shell of what this version is. So I like Ayton. If Miles Turner plays, John, I think that's a really good spot. I don't know if he's going to play again.
Yeah.
He's questionable in the second leg with an ankle sprain. You never know if those players are going to play, but Pearl's good. Jared Allen's solid. Khalil Ware, you can make a case for, has a super high ceiling in this spot against the Bulls. So I think like every mid-tier center, there's a case to be had.
Yeah, I agree. Value centers, I think we mentioned, if Achua was to start again, maybe some interest there. He didn't close. You can play Jovic. Claxton, if no one's playing for Houston, could be interesting. Is there any values for you?
I'm kind of priced out on Achua. I didn't love him last night. Claxton's fine. I don't think Jackson Hayes is long for this game because, again, their small ball center lineups worked so well the other day. The only other thing that like we'd really consider is probably just Thomas Bryant if there's no Turner. Jerome, yeah, Chris, it's a great point. We don't know about Portland at all. I mean, Portland is live to rest somebody based on the minutes, but it's just worth talking about. We don't have their official status, so and
you're gonna have to build lineups with like the contingencies there if you want to make some late pivots on that.
Also, Indy played last night, for what that's worth. Like both Indy and Portland played last night. So yes, Portland did go into overtime. Yes, they could sit. Right now, they're not sitting their players, but we will find out if they do. I mean, they're playing really well. Like they've won 4 in a row, 8-2 over the last 10. But so if they don't rest anybody, DeAndre Ayton mid-30s minutes, here we come, and it's a really good matchup against possibly Thomas Bryant and company.
Yeah. All right, let's get a lineup going then here. We are in on Bam. Do you want him at the forward or the center spot?
What do you think about center?
I mean, I like Porzingis, obviously. I like Joel Embiid. But I'm fine plugging Bam if there's...
I don't want to play Embiid, personally.
Okay, that's fine. Power forward, we have Bam in. Are you going Kawhi, Grant?
Let's see if we did a Tatum and like Garland build, if we have any money to do that.
4,900.
Because we have like Grady Dick.
I mean, if Tate's chalk, do you just would you rather play the Tate chalk or play Cam Whitmore instead?
Cam Whitmore is actually higher owned.
Now he is? Okay. The update there. I think I'd rather play Whitmore over.
I would much rather play Whitmore.
All right. So we're back up to 52. We're in good shape here. Zaire, someone you've been hot?
Yeah, Zaire. Yeah, Zaire is a good play.
$5,500 now per player. Let's see. Do we play Grady Dick? Do we do Rozier? We liked Rozier. Where's Rozier? 46.
That's Rose.
$6K a play for a forward and a util.
It's pretty good.
Do we need do we want any more? Do you want to do like double center with like Porzingis here?
I mean, dude, it's the best game on the board. You will not hear me say anything bad about that game.
That gives us a $4,800. Can go Strus, can go Najee Marshall if we think he starts. Dylan Brooks.
What if you did something crazy here?
What are you thinking?
And you did Jayshawn Tate at the forward. We have double Houston spend downs. And then we have 8,800, and we can play anyone we really want. Brunson?
We'll do Donnie Mitch now. We'll do the two guards. We'll do Garland, Whitmore, Williams, Tatum, Bam, Rozier, Tate, and Mitchell.
It's fun. That's a fun lineup.
There it is. There's your example lineup for everybody. We're going to the Boston-Cleveland game. Got some top Miami plays in there. Zaire's even got a little chalk to him as well. So
yes,
we do appreciate you guys who tune in each and every day. Do one for FanDuel, says James.
Come into
get into the Discord.
Come
James.
into our Discord. Yeah, we'll
help you with a FanDuel lineup.
We got to get out of here.
Free trial if you're not in there already. But I think Yarkis, you were talking about the ownership. Hit us up in the NBA DFS channel. We'll get you a FanDuel lineup for you. For everybody who does tune in each and every day, though, we appreciate you. Hit that like, that share, that subscribe. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll talk to you then.